Hey everyone, you're listening to another episode of the All Things Private Practice podcast. I'm here today with Dr. Amanda Buduris and a licensed, I knew I was going to fuck this up, a licensed
Okay.
psychologist, trauma therapist, business and mindset coach for trauma therapists, and her work centers around helping those with a history of trauma deconstruct the thought viruses that tell them they aren't enough or aren't allowed to take up space. This is going to be a good conversation because, as you say in your bio, you're a first generation woman of color and you're often the youngest person in the professional spaces. So that has to be something that you're constantly aware of when you're in the room.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's been a lot of work to have to kind of navigate that and work through that. But before we jump into our conversation, please tell the audience if I missed anything in your bio that feels important or anything that you want them to know about you.
Yeah, nothing in particular. Those are definitely the highlights. I'm out in Oregon, but I'm originally from Chicago. So have different Oregon's very like a laid back vibe. And sometimes Chicago kind of trained me to be very type A. So it feels like I'm trying to navigate how do I be like a successful business owner with also like navigating the landscape of who are the other professionals around me. So that's just like a fun business thing.
Yeah. Being from New York and then moving to the South, it's kind of a bunch of that too, where you're like, why is everything so slow? Why don't we move faster? And been here
Yeah.
for a decade. So it's kind of like, okay, I kind of appreciate this. Now when I go back to New York, I'm like, oh, I couldn't live here ever again.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so tell us a little bit about this. So like in your bio, you kind of mentioned that and you own a successful practice and coaching business and you're helping therapists, do all sorts of things in the therapeutic spaces. Tell us about some of the challenges that come along with some of the identity that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I think so far my experience throughout grad school, anywhere that I worked before private practice, and even some of the work now is that I've worked in a lot of like white dominant spaces. And so for me, I know I have some amount of passing privilege. A lot of people read me as white anyway, but never feeling truly seen and not like accepted, but sometimes accepted. Like it does feel very different to navigate a space where it's like, I don't know how people are thinking about me. Some people don't even know that I'm a doctor because they're like, she looks way too young. I work with a lot of people in my coaching business who are 2 decades older than me. So I've got, for a lot of reasons, all this like imposter syndrome that can come up of like, well, what the hell do I have to offer these people? And do they even think that I can be helpful to them? So yeah, it
Yeah.
can come with some anxiety and a lot of doubt sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that that's pretty constant and having to like reinforce and affirm, right? Like you've worked really hard to get to where you're at. So I think that's important to acknowledge. And I'm sure that's like a constant process too in certain instances. And I think when we talk imposter syndrome on this podcast, we try to take different perspectives because it impacts people for different reasons. And I think so often for women and women of color, especially, it's a lot of the time, like you said, because you're in white dominated spaces. And then it's like, well, how I don't really belong here. I don't fit in, or people are looking at me like, how the hell did I get here? So,
Mhm.
for those who are listening, who will share similar experiences, can you tell us a little bit about the ways that you've kind of navigated some of this stuff as you've gone through both your personal and professional journey?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it has been the thing that I wrote in my bio came from my own therapy session where I was talking with my therapist of why do I have some of these beliefs that I have about myself? Like, why do I struggle with not believing in myself, not thinking I'm enough? And she referred to it as these thought viruses of like something gets implanted in your brain of like, for some reason, you're not enough. And that just can take over everything. And so for me, it's had to been a lot of as the youngest person in a lot of spaces, as a woman of color, knowing that sometimes my default is going to be to have that thought of like, well, I'm not enough, or people aren't going to take me seriously or see what I have to offer, and just recognize and name that, but not let that be where it stops. To see I do have things to offer. I'm a young fucking doctor. I can do and offer really great things for people. So to be able to not just have it be, I worry I'm not enough, but to actively try and push through it and recognize I do have a lot of strengths and skills to offer people.
I think that's a really powerful way to kind of combat that quote unquote thought virus. Because so often for people, it kind of gets to that point, right? Where it's like, here's the message that I'm receiving or interpreting, and it kind of stops there. And a
Yeah.
lot of the time, it like prevents them from moving forward. It paralyzes them. It keeps people small because then it's like it's not really possible for me to expand or take up space. So having that constant reminder to reinforce like, hey, no, this is not rational, right? Like this was implanted, but there are so many ways that I can combat this. So that's a really important way to do it.
Because like you
Before
said, I think yeah,
go
I've
ahead.
noticed a lot of the ways that like when I feel small for some reason, then I know like it's not usually actually about like me. It's
Right.
usually about like other people's shit. And so it's like, okay, if I'm feeling small and I'm feeling mad about something, like there's something I want to do here and I want to do something different.
Absolutely. And it sounds like doing a lot of work though to get to a place where you can recognize that, name it, then move through it. So
Yeah.
for those who are listening who are like, damn, I find myself stuck in this space pretty often. Strategies, techniques, any sort of affirmation, words of wisdom that they could take away because I think implementation is so important with all of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, number one, like I said, my own therapy. So if you are not in your own therapy, especially as a therapist, definitely get into it.
Yep.
I think too, just surrounding myself or being exposed to more places where people are talking about it vulnerably and honestly, because otherwise, before I went into private practice, like everyone around me were just kind of feeling like, or it's seeming like, we've got it all together. We know what we're doing. Like, you should just be confident enough. You just need to know what you're doing. But no one would actually talk about, well, what to do when actually you have no idea what the hell you're doing. And so that just made me feel even worse and less than. And so the more I was able to be exposed to podcasts like yours and other people who just talk very openly about, of course, you question your ability. Of course, you doubt yourself. Of course, you don't know how to do something you don't know how to do. That's super normal. That was so helpful in being like, there are a lot of other people out there in that space like me. I'm not actually alone in this. So finding those supportive spaces and not those really shaming places, which I know we've all seen those groups on social media where people can be very judgmental. So if you're in those spaces, set some boundaries with those spaces.
Totally. Yep. Absolutely. Having those places where we can normalize things like because so often we do not talk about the fear, the failure, the shame, the struggle because it's like internalized and then we kind of say to ourselves, I'm the only one experiencing this. There must be something wrong with me. And in reality, it's like, no, like when we're vulnerable and we're able to open up about this stuff, the amount of people that you reach and access because they're like, oh, I'm having the exact same or a very similar experience is so normalizing within the human experience and condition. So when we are therapists and mental health professionals, I think we already have like this very high level of inner or self criticism, and we hold ourselves to very high standards, mostly unrealistically. And then we take it a step further and we move into the entrepreneurial spaces or small business owner spaces, but 99% of us haven't had any small business training. So it very quickly becomes like this self-fulfilling like prophecy of I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to fail. I'm constantly am making mistakes. I don't know how to ask for help, or if I do, I feel like too embarrassed. And that can really be so debilitating because I think if we keep it all internal, it really starts to create this like self-destructive process.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially like me having the experience of going through my 6 years of schooling, my year of postdoc residency, everything involved in getting my psychology license. Like, I know that if given this depth to things. Like you do this class and then you set this thing up. Like I know that I'm capable of doing it, but something about moving into private practice, despite a decade of schooling, I was like, I can figure this all out on my own. It'll be fine. Like I'm smart. I'm capable of doing that. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I know how to follow something when it's laid out. So I need to go to people to know how to lay it out for me who have been there and already been through the struggles and want me to benefit from that in a sense of like, don't make this mistake, do this instead. So DIYing it is like not the way to go when you have no idea what you're doing.
I feel like DIYing it and mental health professionals who start small businesses go hand in hand for so
Yeah.
many reasons of like, I just don't have the resources to outsource, or I just don't see the value in doing it, or that mentality of like that a lot of us with control issues are like, I'm just going to do it all myself. Like I just have to
Mhm.
figure out how to wear all the hats, and that gets really overwhelming really quickly. It really doesn't set yourself up for success in terms of like, I could be doing more of the things I loved if I passed off the things that I hate or I don't know how to do or I don't have time to do. And I think there's this weird disconnect within our profession where it's so hard to just admit like I'm going to have to outsource. I'm going to have to ask someone for support despite the fact that we are teaching our clients all the time to do these things. We do not often practice what we preach.
Yeah. Because again, we are highly educated people and we can figure things out and we can do a lot, but it's that same advice that we are giving to our clients over and over. Like just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it's not sustainable. And definitely not in small business ownership.
No. And again, it's like you could be the best therapist in the world, but if you really struggle with collecting payment, if you really struggle with like how to get client calls coming in the door, and it's just can lead to this situation where you are so excited to start your practice, then all of a sudden 6 months later you're packing up shop and you're like, well, I guess I'm going back to community mental health because I can't make it as a business owner.
Yeah. And
You
again,
see
I
it.
think so much of that is like the shame and the fear that we see from a lot of other therapists who like weren't able to outsource and had to close their businesses, or who said like the only way you can are going to succeed is if you do these things that people don't want to do. Like they may not want to work evenings or weekends or take insurance, whatever that might be. But to see some people so strongly say this is the one way you're going to make it, and
Yeah.
it's like what? So that makes people worry about. I don't know if that's how I want to make it.
Yeah. I don't think there's a one size fits all approach.
No.
I think so often in the Facebook groups or just in general, you have this advice that's really just not good advice where it's like, this is the only way to be successful, or this is the only blueprint. If you don't follow it, then there's going to be judgment. There's going to be like this message of you're doing it incorrectly, or, you're doing it in a way that doesn't align with my values. And I think for us, like, it doesn't matter. I always say, whatever type of business you want to create, like, more power to you. Like, there's room for everybody, and there's room for all different ideologies and mentalities in terms of how am I going to structure this. So that could be a whole different conversation. So for you, tell us about what's worked, like the stuff that you've gotten to a place where you're like, this feels like I got this down. Like I feel really confident, or I feel really, really good about this.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it comes from at some point, I think I was doing everything in my private practice myself for about like 4 or 6 months. And then I was like, I need to ask for help. And so I started actually investing in my practice as opposed to just trying to DIY everything, trying to just like cut expenses as much as possible to maximize profit as much as possible. So I was like, I'm going to actually learn from someone like, how the hell do I write copy? How the hell do I market outside of psychology today? Because that's not getting me anywhere. So the
Right.
more and more that I actually went to experts and said, teach me what you're doing that's working, the more that that actually helped my business work. And the more that that helped me be able to hire people to outsource the tasks that I hate, the more that helped me to get more time back and to expand into some of the coaching work where now I'm supporting other therapists. But simply, again, just that idea of like asking for help and knowing that that's okay, that you're not supposed to know how to do this all unless you got a second marketing degree or something like that, or graphic design or whatever. But yeah, just by asking for support and learning too that it is okay for me to do things my way. Because yeah, we could get on a whole other topic about this. I just got in a fight with someone on Facebook the other day of like, I'm in Oregon, so like I need to charge high fees to be sustainable in Oregon. And a lot of people will see that at face value for those of us who do private pay as like, well, you just don't value social justice and you're just oppressing the poor and all these things that, again, some people are going to look at that and feel like, I guess I can't do that. Like, that's going to make me a bad person. That other therapist said so, as opposed to just like, well, this is actually what works for me. It actually helps me find other ways to do work accessibly without like financial stress and anxiety. So the more that I'm just like, let me do what works for me and embracing that, that's been just like game changing in terms of my confidence, not only as a therapist, but as a business owner. And so I get to be more creative with, I do a lot of therapy intensives where I see people for 3 to 9 hours at a time, where we just do a shit ton of therapy, where clients do get to move through their goals in more of an accelerated way. And that's been also huge for shifting things around in my practice. So I just find that I'm like, I'm going to do whatever makes me happy, whatever I want. And some therapists are going to judge and some are going to be like, show me the way. And that's great either way. But asking for help, doing what I want, those have been the biggest things for, yeah, just where I'm at today.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a great perspective of like asking for help is huge because I think so often we don't see the immediate value in spending money on things that's gonna actually perpetuate our growth in the long term. Like
Yeah.
you may pay for coaching, you may pay for marketing, SEO, web design, graphic design, social media management, etc. And in the immediacy, as you're starting off, you may not see the results right away. And it can feel like a money pit if you don't know where that money should be going. But if you really invest it into your business in the right ways, it really pays itself back 10 times over. And we're playing the long game. We're not paying for like, okay, I'm gonna start running Google ads and all of a sudden I'm gonna get 100 calls in one day. That's not how it works. But I think so often that's the expectation. So when it doesn't work, it's like, see, this is why you
Mhm.
don't do these things.
Right.
Um, and then more importantly, what you said about doing what you want to be doing. I think that is so important to highlight when we're talking about small business ownership because it's so easy to get caught up in the mentality of what should I be doing? What is everyone else doing? And social media plays that role, right? Like we're in comparison culture. We often set our rates based on what everyone else is doing. We often set up our structures because of what everyone else is doing. And in reality, it's like, but what if this doesn't work for me and my needs? So if we are only setting our fees based on what 5 other therapists in my community say I should set my fees at, where did their advice come from? Where did their thought processes come from? They probably did the same exact thing where they were like, I'm going to go on site today and see what everyone's charging, or I'm going to look at all the websites in my area and see what everyone's charging. Okay, this is a reasonable fee or a rate. We don't really often take into consideration like what kind of lifestyle am I trying to live? What kind of needs do I have that need to be met? Because that's really how fee setting should work. And then if we get caught up in the whole like if you don't take insurance, you are just really buying into capitalism. It's like the people who run insurance companies are making billions of dollars to
Mhm.
provide health insurance that doesn't cover anything, that doesn't do a fucking thing because you have a $10,000 deductible before you can start paying your copay. So it's a flawed system. We know that. So I think it's really important. And you made a statement that's really a powerful one, where it's like you can either get caught up in the shame based aspect of it, of like people telling you what you're doing wrong, or the people who are like, show me the way. And if you're
Mhm.
focusing more on the people who are asking to show me the way, the career feels a lot more satisfying. It feels more fulfilling. It feels more energizing. It feels more like passion filled opposed to like drudging and dredging. Like, oh my God, this feels like I'm constantly battling. That's not a fun way to go through this profession or this career or through life.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if you can get to a place of what do I want out of this? What do I want this to look like? You can start to really create the business structure that works for you. And I think imposter syndrome shows up and plays a major role in this when it's like, hey, you shouldn't be structuring this way. You're not allowed to do A, B, and C. That feels like really unethical. We love to throw that word around in this profession.
Mhm.
So I think it's about just really challenging those narratives, which can be hard to do. And I think you have to be really anchored in and really grounded in what is important to you. And if you align your values with your business, then it really goes hand in hand. And for me, I may not be like giving sessions and things away for free constantly, but it allows me to put my money into causes that I care about, to donate money and time. And I think for me, that makes more sense than like giving away session after session after session. When in reality, it's like I can have a much bigger impact if I can see it in a different light and a different lens.
Mhm. Yeah. I think again, that's the beauty that comes from like again, what works for you and also having that be, you don't have to have it all figured out at once. Like what works for you now might change in 6 months or a year. So much of us get stuck in that like, but I have to make the best decision now. And that's going to determine the rest of my career. It's like, no, do what works for you now and then reevaluate. What are the things that still make you mad? Okay, maybe make some changes around that. What are the things that fill you up? How do we get more of that?
Absolutely. I think this is an evolving career process. Like, if you're a small business owner, where you are today is not going to be where you are in 5 years. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from them. You're going to incorporate changes. You're going to pivot. You're going to shift. You're going to revise policies and procedures. You're going to change the hours that you work. You're going to up your fees. You're going to decide to take different trainings and get involved in different interests. Like, where I am right now compared to where I was in 2016 when I started my practice is night and day. And all of my coaching and advice is off of mistakes that I made or would not make again, where it was like I saw everybody and anybody. I saw everybody who called me despite what they could pay me. And I overworked myself and recreated my agency job environment and all the things that I tell people not to do. My website sucked. My psychology today sucked. Like, but it is a matter of like imperfect action and moving through that instead of saying, I'm just not going to get started because I don't know how.
Absolutely. Picking whatever EHR, picking whatever your color palette is, whatever it is. It's just about picking something and then it can always change later.
Yeah. And I think once you choose something and you like make a decision, then you can revise and edit and improve. But you can't do that if you're stuck in like perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and you're like, I can't get started because I have to demo every single EHR out there to figure out what is the best one. No, you can pick one and you can fucking change it. Like, you can
Absolutely.
change your website, you can change your branding, like you can reinvent yourself so many times. And I think that's the beauty in this is like as a small business owner, the finish line is far away. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon and you get to have pit stops along the way. You get to kind of like just reinvent who you are, what your beliefs are, and the things that you're passionate about. And then that there's no stagnation in that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's where I feel like so much of that like creativity, like the more that I'm able to actually be creative, like even that in and of itself helps fight my own like self doubt of like, okay, like maybe I don't see myself doing this thing in the way that person does it, but actually I see this thing like that I could fully create that I've never seen over here. And like that helps me be super confident because I'm not comparing myself against what others have done. I'm comparing it against what I haven't seen anyone do and in the way that I want to see it.
Yeah, I love that. And that is the way to like create that not only that spark of creativity, but that passion. And it allows you to do better work. And
Yeah.
because you're like really much more motivated by it, you're much more enthusiastic, you're much more willing to try. I think that entrepreneurship is about taking risks at times. And it doesn't mean you're always diving in head first, but it does mean stepping out of your comfort zone. It does mean trying to do things differently. And again, adapting them to what works for you. I think that is the important takeaway again, is like figuring out what you want this career to look like for you, not for what everyone else says you should do or it should look like. So you had mentioned you didn't want to talk about this, but just for those of you listening, like you do therapy intensives, and I know a lot of people are interested in that. As an as a different source of income because people don't want to just do 60-minute session after 60-minute session after 60-minute session. Can you speak to that, like in terms of what can that offer you as a business owner and what can that offer the client?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point because it's not just therapists who can be kind of bored with the 60-minute session. It's also clients. There are
Yeah,
clients who are like, it's going to take me too long to dive in to get to the stuff I really need to talk about. And so they are already looking for a space where they can have more space, even if that's the difference between a 60-minute session or a 90-minute session. And so therapy intensives are great in a lot of ways. In my therapy practice, my specialties are around trauma and couples work. And those are perfect examples. But I think, there's probably any niche that could support therapy intensives where, again, you just get the time to really focus in on like, where are you at? Where have you been stuck? And where do you want to go? And sometimes that's not even about a thing. Like sometimes it is, I got in a car accident and I need to get over this ASAP. But sometimes, again, it's just personal individual preference of people who are like, this medical model of therapy does not work for me. This is not about just like super fast symptom reduction. I need to actually really be able to trust my therapist. And it's going to be harder to do that if I'm only seeing you for like 50 minutes every other week. So just
absolutely.
everyone benefits from, can we get some more time? Can we get some more space? And I've seen great things happen for clients making like significant shifts in their life. People talk about it like massive, mind blowing life changes in 3 hours. Like so much can change when you just open up beyond what the insurance model of therapy has said. This is what it's supposed to look like. And on the therapist end, it's so cool to see that. That's where, again, I'm becoming more confident of like, it's not that actually I didn't know it was what I was doing. I was, again, trying to adhere to a model that didn't work for me. The
Right.
more that I'm able to just extend those sessions and see what people are capable of, if that makes me feel like a better therapist, it means that my schedule doesn't have to be how many hour-long sessions can I fit into this chunk of this day, this week, but actually I get to be really flexible with, well, this week I do have a 6-hour intensive and only like 4 weekly clients or whatever it depends on looking like. But my schedule has gotten a lot more flexible. There are, I say this a lot of like, there's a lot of these different, what are people saying, like additional or alternative income streams, whatever. Like therapy intensives are one of the easiest way to do that because you already know what you're doing. It's just you're changing it a little bit. You're just expanding how you're doing therapy. So it does have really great income potential without you needing to, how the hell do I pick where I'm going to host this course and I have to decide what I'm recording it on and what's email marketing. So it's a really accessible way for therapists to just try something that's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, you can obviously increase your bottom line. You can increase the money you're bringing in. You can
Yeah.
increase the healing that happens in a much quicker and accelerated way. And if you think about it, right, again, circling back to this mentality of like, we have to take insurance to be accessible. If you do a 3-hour intensive and you have these breakthroughs and it costs X amount of money and they don't have to come every week and they don't have to pay out of pocket or pay their deductible or their copay, you've just actually created a substantial amount of healing that would have maybe taken 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, potentially never getting to the actual problem or the root of the cause. Because again, 50-minute increments of time, it's really hard and people are busy and it's not always easy to just dive in. Sometimes you stay above the surface, right? For like the first 30, 40 minutes of a session. How often do we have a client who just like drops that bomb at the end and you're like, okay, see you next week. Fuck, I don't know what to do with that. So
Mhm.
I really like the intensive model. I think it's a great option for those of you who are doing trauma therapy. It's a great option who are you're doing these deeper dives. And I think a lot of clients do want to go deeper. They want to get results. They want to really work through some of the stuff that talk therapy traditionally is just not helping with. So really a cool alternative stream of revenue. And like you said, you don't have to figure all the moving pieces out that you don't know how to do. Like, oh, you want to start a podcast, there's moving pieces. You want to start a coaching program, there's moving pieces. You want to do therapy intensives, you already know what to do. So it's just about creating the rates and then creating the informed consent around it. So I think that's a really great point. Um, for those that are listening, any last minute advice, any last minute tips or strategies that you want to leave people with? And also, please share where people can find more of you so that they can work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think really just big takeaways around, you do ultimately know what you're doing and what you have to offer as a therapist. Like there is no question about that. I think when it comes to running the business side of what you're doing in a practice, ask for help where you are more stuck, where you don't know what you're doing. Like save yourself literal time, money, and headaches with just asking people who have been there. And again, that piece of just because a business coach you hire might say, like, this really worked for me, that doesn't mean that's what you have to do. So it's about like learning some of the wisdoms with also that grain of salt of how does that fit in with my identities and how I want my practice to look and what I value, and maybe making a little bit more of like an informed choice as opposed to just like shooting in the dark, throwing spaghetti at the wall and just hoping something's going to work and then hating things 8 months down the road. So reach out for help, get some perspective, but also keep in mind like what is the thing I actually want to do at the end of the day. I'm on not all because that would be overwhelming, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Amanda KB Coaching. So that's where all of my information is. I have a free Facebook group where I am holding trainings, teaching people how to do the therapy intensives, where, like, quite honestly, a lot of it just is the mindset work of you already know what you're doing. You just maybe market it on this page a little bit differently, or here's how you want to think about your rate a little bit differently. So people are welcome to join that group if they want to get some more information. And I also have a coaching program where I walk people through all the things related to intensives and copywriting and marketing. Like the program I wish I had when I was shifting out of my agency work into private practice is the thing that I've built that I've become super, super passionate about, because the therapists in it are really enjoying just having like a comprehensive space where you get to learn all the things in one place from one person, as opposed to probably the experience a lot of us have had of like, you do that marketing course with that person, that copywriting course with that person. Like, it's just combine it all. Ease of access is like one of my biggest values. And so, yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Cool. That's awesome. And all of that information will be in the show notes so you can easily access what Amanda has to offer. Really cool conversation, and really excited to meet you in person at some of these retreats and destinations. So I hope that everyone had some good takeaways today. And thanks for coming on, Amanda.
Thank you, Patrick.
To everyone listening to the All Things Private Practice podcast, new episodes are out every single Saturday on all major platforms and YouTube. Like, download, subscribe, and share. Doubt yourself. Do it anyway. See you next week.